as we were discussing yesterday, and to basically indicate some of the areas where the State Department of Trade will be able to partner with the private sector, the county governments, and the various ministries as we try to roll out this reform program. The first thing that came into my mind that I could share reflection on is on the issue of certifications. I think many of the participants yesterday spoke about the issue around the Rainforest Alliance, which is currently accounting for over 1 million metric tons in terms of production, is Rainforest Alliance certified. One thing is that the State Department of Trade is keen to work with the private sector and with the county government so that we are then able to see, one, how we can make dealing with the Rainforest Alliance a bit easier. But at the same time, we say that certification is a matter that also follows the market first. So once we re-establish where we want to go in as far as new markets is concerned, then we'll be able then to figure out which certification programs are also relevant in relation to that market so that then we're able to get them. We can work with the International Trade Center on this, which has done a lot of work on voluntary sustainable standards. There are over 5,000 of them, and we can actually see which ones are the ones which are connected to the new markets that we want to go to. I mean, there's Fair Trade International, UTZ certified, and so on and so forth. Secondly, there was a point made yesterday whether we can actually make a local certification program. That is very much possible. And it is something which the flower industry has already done. The Kenya Flower Council has actually started a certification program, which is a silver standard and a gold standard, which is actually followed globally. And this is something that I believe we should be able to successfully contemplate, given that we're the largest exporter of tea in the world. Secondly, a quick reflection on the issue of markets and getting our ambassadors and others to be able to help us here. The State Department for Trade posts trade attaches all over the world. We have 18 of them in several of the capitals. One of the things that we've already done, and we have received instructions from the Trade Committee of Parliament through a discussion we had, and I'm happy that the Vice Chair of the Trade Committee, the MP for Aldai, is here, is that we have agreed that we are reforming the Foreign Trade Commercial Service to do a number of things, and this conference can benefit from that. The first thing that we are doing is that we are converting it from a series of people just based into capitals to a value chain approach. What does that mean? Within the tea sector, if we agree on which are the new markets that we want to go for, what is our target in as far as penetrating that market, we will reorganize the Foreign Trade and Commercial Service to meet that, and a foreign trade and commercial officer will no longer have to be a staffer of the State Department for Trade. It will be the most competent person that we can find, and also we can work with the private sector so that we can build a team around this kind of marketing, which then can be a blend of public and private. And there are a number of development partners that are very interested in this new approach, and this is something which I do urge that the people writing the minutes for this conference can urge that the State Department of Trade come up with a tea value chain approach for the foreign commercial service, which blends the private sector and the public sector. Within about 7 days, we'll be able to work that out and make our returns back to this meeting. Another issue then that also came up is when I looked at the trade statistics, in as far as where our tea goes, we are facing a number of risks. If you look at our total production of about $1.3 billion, the majority goes to Pakistan at 536 million, Egypt at 207 million, the UK at 106 million, Yemen at 59 million, Iran at 49 million, and so on and so forth. Are facing a number of shortages to do with availability of US dollar, which is the primary currency of trade. And they have also been markets which, for the recent times, have not been very, very stable in as far as them being able to get these products from us. So our diversification strategy should also look at markets whereby we are not likely to face the issues of availability of currency and so on and so forth. When we look at branding, I think a lot has been said by the private sector and the various partners already on this particular area. And the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency is also here with us. And they have done lots of work together with the Tea Board of Kenya in as far as doing the necessary branding work. And I would like to urge that we can task them with doing a refresh of our branding so that it focuses on the specialty teas that then allows us to go into these new markets. Finally, on the issue of investment, one of the key things that came up was the packaging sector in the conversations yesterday. And as my friend Kimanga, who is going to present right after me, might tell you, is that when you look at a packaged tea, the value of the packaging sometimes can be higher than the value of the tea itself. And so we are losing a lot if we do not have a locally based packaging sector. And what is happening here? I think we should look at Dogokundu, and particularly also whether we are able to have the special economic zones encourage the packaging sector. And this is an area whereby the State Department for Trade and the State Department for Investment Promotion can have it as an outcome from this conference for us to complete, in partnership with the tea sector, feasibility studies, so that then we are able to have a bankable set of information that can be shared with private sector so that we can encourage the packaging sector locally. On the trading, I was very happy to hear yesterday that in addition to the existing IATA, that the colleague from the private sector had some very good ideas around the sector. And we also potentially have other outlets for this. We have the Kenya Multi-Commodity Exchange, which is owned 20% by the Nairobi Stock Exchange and 80% currently by the Treasury. The objective, however, is for the 80% that's owned by the Treasury to eventually cede as much as possible to be owned by the private sector. What does this mean? It means that if tea farmers, cooperatives, and other private sector people want to be able to own part of a commodity exchange and gear it towards the tea trade, then this is possible, such that you actually do have an option that you can explore, which could also afford farmers and cooperatives to mobilize capital and actually own part of an exchange so that they do it directly. I think basically that is what I would say for now, and also just to share that the State Department for Trade and the Ministry for Investment, Trade and Industry is committed to making its part in as far as the tea reforms are concerned, and we shall work with you to achieve this. Thank you very much. Very happy to field questions. Senate Majority Leader, since you're the one who unsheathed the sword, maybe you can go first. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, PS, and thank you for your presentation. My question is to you because you hold a very important key.
Correct.
The reason I say you hold a very important key is that yesterday we were talking about savings, how much you can save by being more efficient, issues of governance and the rest. There's only so much you can gain out of that, and it's not as big a pie as what you pretend to give these farmers if you succeed in your mission. You've talked about new markets and what we need to do. I just wanted to find out how prepared is the ministry in terms of opening up markets for the tea farmers of Kenya under the ACFTA arrangement. Why do I ask so? It's because many of us that are here, they travel to various parts of Africa, West Africa, North Africa. You drink our tea, only that it's branded English breakfast, sold in sacks from Mombasa, repackaged in Dubai and Rotterdam, and flown back to Africa. And that's where the money is. 60% of the value of that eventual pack remains with the people that are doing the value addition. And there's nothing of value they are adding. It's the packaging only. So I don't know if as a ministry you have considered that arrangement and whether you can interest. We listened to the people that have the ways and means. At least those that are in the production side say that's not an area they want to operate. But would you interest at least the buyers, those that buy out of Mombasa, and what incentives are you willing to give them as a ministry so that they set up here in Kenya instead of going to do the blending in Dubai and Netherlands and in London? Let them do it here, at least even for the African market alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think let's have Honorable Member of Parliament for Aldai.
Thank you very much. Now, we travel a lot, and I think as a PS you've traveled, you've gone to China. When you get to China, any meeting you will have on the table, we don't have the water we have on our table right now. What you will have on a China table is green tea. And they do that at whatever time of day or night, you have green tea on the table. We are here today discussing a tea conference. And what we have on our table right now is water. And that really is the irony. When you look at the tea we are talking about in Kenya, we ourselves as Kenyans are not promoting our tea. You as the Department of Trade, specifically dealing with matters trade, and tea being our biggest income earner, I think we need to start from home. Every table, right from your office to when we have such conferences, you need to encourage us to have tea on our tables. It doesn't have to be mixed tea with milk. It can be the black tea, just like the green tea that China sells. So that what we have on our table here, the first thing you get is tea. When that visitor comes from South Africa, comes from whichever part of the country, of the world, to Kenya, to your meeting in Kenya, the first thing they will take is Kenyan black tea. And that is how we start selling tea. I think we need to relook at how we do our thing right from home. We need to increase the amount of tea we sell here before even we talk about exports. And even as we talk about exports, that particular person who has bought tea today or taken tea in your office today, when they go back home, they will encourage and say, we'd like to have that Kenyan tea in their tables in whichever country.
Thank you very much. I think let's the 2 or 3 more on this side, and then Honorable Governor, I think, yes.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I want to start by saying I was privileged to be an High Commissioner in the West African region, and I used my office to try and market the tea. But the major obstacle that time, I don't know now, was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And that's why I want to address Your Excellency, yourself, with the kind of zeal you have. We need to task the Minister of Foreign Affairs to really be aggressive in terms of marketing tea. Nigeria, for example, Lagos alone has a population of about 20 to 30 million. The country has about 200 million people. East African community has a very huge population, and we are yet to use that power to sell our tea to this region. I think as a trade PS,
Yes.
I also know that you don't have the capacity to post all the trade attaches to these countries where we have ambassadors. We need to have our ambassadors be our focal point in terms of selling our tea. And, Your Excellency, the other problem we have is that the people who are in the ministries, they have a very negative attitude about African countries. When they want to go out, they only go to China, they go to Pakistan, and they avoid going to West African region and the East African region. We need to change our attitude so that our people can be able to move and know that the target of our tea should be here. The other thing I would like to also support my colleague here is let us also be aggressive in marketing tea in our own country. The intake of tea in this country is very low. And why? We don't have the capacity to sell tea. I want to ask the tea board of Kenya, and I was privileged to actually invite the former CEO, Mrs. Kericho Sicily, and I took her to West Africa, the deep part of West Africa, and we were able to market that tea. But there was no aggressiveness. We need to make a follow-up and make tea sold in our African region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Ambassador.
Thank you, CS. PS, Your Excellency, Duncan Maina Mathenge, Nyeritan constituency. I want to point out two things. A lot of times we've spoken about Singapore and where it has gotten. I took time to travel to Singapore. At the airport upon landing was a pamphlet that was promoting Chinatown in Singapore. That if you went to Singapore, you should not leave unless you went to sample the variety of food that was being offered by small traders in Chinatown. At our airport, at JKIA, Mombasa, Eldoret, what level of promotion are we doing in terms of visitors entering this country towards tea and other Kenyan products? On the area of investment, you've talked about the packaging material. You've made reference to Dogokundu. But another key component is enabling the tea growing counties to attract industries and do value addition in those areas so that we create jobs for the children of these farmers. And therefore the question of the SEZ in terms of the manufacturing of the packaging material, I would encourage you to consider setting that up in the tea growing regions. I think that is a key because we must stimulate industrialization in the counties. And also the promotion of direct sales. Because when we have direct sales, the question of traceability of origin is virtually guaranteed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member of Parliament. I would like to take the opportunity of the interlude to recognize Honourable Cabinet Secretary for Energy, Honourable Davis Chirchir. You're most welcome, sir. Let's have the mic on this side. There are a few questions on the back.
Thank you so much.
So maybe the person who's taking the mic round, just make that decision and we move quickly.
Thank you so much, PS, for that wonderful presentation. I just wanted to weigh in on something because we are moving towards realization of aggregated agro-processing zones in the counties. And my take is that as we do value addition and pick up the line of value addition, especially in counties that cross tea, that we are here, I would like to really request you that you partner with counties so that we have tea as one of those value-added components in the aggregated zones. Secondly, PS, I was just in DRC around 2 or 3 months ago, and the market there is huge. In fact, for a fact, they don't consume any Kenyan tea. And when I had engagement with the Deputy President of DRC, and I have shared this with our boss, His Excellency the Deputy President, he admitted that most of the DRC or consulists are not even aware that there is tea in Kenya. And yet, DRC now is one of the countries within the East African region. I would like to persuade you that you consider supporting KDDA, independent producers, to have warehouses in such countries so that they are able to be able, even whatever we produce from Kenya, they're able then to have storages there, and they're able to sell the Kenyan tea in DRC. Because largely, they are importing their tea from Malaysia and Sri Lanka. And for me, I thought that is a virgin market that if we stretch our thoughts a bit, would be able to take the Kenyan tea to another level. And then lastly, there is a possibility, PS, that we can create satellite marketing zones in every county. Because if you see in places like China where Mheshimiwa was talking about, there are always shops and there are always trade shops that runs 24 hours. For example, in Kericho here, if we're able to design another counties, places where we don't need to go ourselves to those particular countries, we can be able to tap in on their expertise and bring them to our own counties, and then they are able then to be alive to the fact that we have tea here, and out of it they are able to market our tea, they are able to buy our tea and take it abroad, because it's a global village and it's a competitive world that we are in. But I'm very much delighted in your presentation, and I just really wanted to comment on that particular matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Governor. I think there's some
Thank
comments
you.
on this side. Or maybe
My name is
should I
Kibet.
answer a few and as we continue, or
Mine actually will be like a half a minute.
maybe you and the two gentlemen, and then I could answer.
Yeah, thank you, PS. My name is Kibet Kericho Mingoi, MP for Bureti. I have two quick questions. Tea largely is exported product. Why are tea factories not set out as economic processing zones? Number two, we heard yesterday generally about the difference in factories and the efficiencies within factories. Some of these factories are so old that they will not be able to be efficient or provide value for our farmers. Could the ministry consider giving grants to some of these factories? I have in mind Litain factory and Tegat factory, which are so old that whatever the farmers may be able to do may not be able to generate a lot of value because they are old. Can we be able, through the ministry, modernize this in an effort to put money in the pockets of the farmers? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Justice Keme, Your Excellency, MPC Gowitso constituency. And my question is related to what Aaron Cheriot and the rest of the presenters have been talking about this morning. The elephant in the room seems to be packaging. And we've always heard that rocket science, sometimes back, used to be so difficult. And we used to refer to things that could be simplified as not being rocket science. I want to believe, Ndugu PS, that packaging is a very, very simple thing. You're talking of the material, you're talking of technology, and you're talking of market impact. Three things basically. We have our EPZs. Why don't we as government, and His Excellency the Deputy President is here, as government, take deliberate measures to make sure that we could package our tea to suit the foreign markets in this country, and more so in EPZs. It could still be a joint venture between the national government and the county governments, particularly where tea is grown. Because if we don't do that, then we will be unlikely to penetrate the foreign markets that we so desire. In addition to that, Ketepa has been packaging tea for some time. And we would wish that there was a situation where Ketepa is encouraged in terms of technology so that it can be able to advance its packaging to the standards required in foreign countries. Thank you. Thank you, Ndugu. Yes.
Thank you, sir. One last one, and then I'll answer.
Thank you so much. I'm Brighton Yegon, Member of Parliament, Konoin Constituency, and Vice Chair of Agriculture Committee. I want to just ask, what is the progress of establishment of common user facility? And because the President has been very passionate about value adding 40% of our teas for export. And also in the law that we made, Tea Act 2020, it also has a target of value adding 40% of our teas before export.
Okay, thank you very much. I think just let me take a few of those questions first, and then if there are just a few more, then I can take a look at them as well. Let me start off with the issue of new markets. Just 2 weeks ago, we concluded an agreement with the European Union where we managed now to get permanent tariff-free, quota-free access into that market. It's one of the largest markets. Only $40 million of our tea is currently going into the European Union, mostly after Brexit. I think the UK left with just about 106 million. So that is still, just as an example of a market whereby we have a partner that's also willing to put in export assistance, that's also willing to help us export into that market. It's a conversation that we can certainly have. And that is one which the State Department will be very, very keen to work with the tea stakeholders immediately to see how we can have a conversation with the European Commission to access better those 27 countries that are only taking $40 million of the tea out of the $1.3 billion that we are basically exporting. But still on the issue of, we spoke about Africa Continental Free Trade Area. I'm a big fan of trading with our African brothers and sisters. West Africa remains an extremely big market, but we have one key problem, Your Excellency. To Ghana under the Guided Trade Initiative, which Kenya is part of, with a number of other countries and Ghana. Those are the countries that were really willing now to move on trade faster than the other African countries. It took about 87 days for this tea to get to Ghana. 87. And this is also because there were no shipping facilities that were actually able to get into the port within a short period of time. We had to link back into the Middle East and then back and so forth. So if our tea is taking 87 days to get to Ghana, then it also becomes a bit problematic. And now the issue of trade logistics is really something that we have to look at. So my recommendation, Your Excellency, is for those writing the minutes of this workshop, let us also look at the issue of transport logistics, both by sea freight and also by air, so that we can see the extent to which that is affecting our markets. Another thing is the question of the production side. Yes, so we can actually use our export processing zones for basically manufacturing of packaging, manufacturing of the tea that is actually destined for the exports. And then, of course, they will be able to get in a lot of the fiscal incentives and sort of help them with that production process. I think one thing, however, that we still need to sort out, I'm still not sure what the latest is when you're an export processing company, then you have a limit of 20% that you're able to sell into the local market. And I think that has been creating quite a bit of problems in as far as people who want to benefit from the EPZ to also serve the domestic market. But I think we only consume 5% of the tea that we produce, unless I'm mistaken, and maybe that in the context of the tea sector may not be a very big problem. So we can also have a very targeted conversation. We're already talking to a number of the players that are interested in places like Dongokundu and so on and so forth, but I do agree that we also need special economic zones that are established in places like Kericho, so that then production and specialty tea and so on and so forth can be produced right at the source, so that we minimize all of that. This is a conversation that we are willing to have with the governors and the tea sector people as quickly as possible. When we talk of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this was made by Honorable Ambassador Sigay, and I think that what we really need to do, and we're already embarking on it, I already have a paper that we've developed within the State Department. Our foreign trade and commercial service is not fit for purpose. It is totally not fit for purpose because, I'll give you an example. Karachi is the top center of tea for our exports. Our trade attaché is based in Islamabad because that's where the embassy is. And therefore, they are cut out from the conversation and the work that they need to do in order to be part of that. Secondly, you cannot have a trade attaché that's a career Ministry of Trades person to basically do for you a lot of the tea-related work. And that's why I'm saying that in our new approach, we are basically saying that once we identify what the value chain is, once we identify the markets that we want to get into, once we identify how we are supposed to penetrate and profile the kind of a buyer, then we will work with the private sector to come up with a mechanism to have representation there. And that representation doesn't have to come from the civil service alone. It can be a combination of the organized farmers, the organized sellers, the factories, and so on and so forth. And Honorable Your Excellency, maybe the people writing the report should task State Department of Trade and the factories and the governors to, within 7 or 10 days, come up with a viable new trade representation service that's focused on the tea sector within our new markets. That is something that we'll be very willing to do very shortly. Another one is on the issue of focusing still on the African markets. It was mentioned that Lagos is about 20 to 30 million people. That's true. Kinshasa is also 20 million people. So what is the problem, and why are we not able to get in? Apart from the trade logistics is a major issue for us there. But one of the things that I've spoken to with independent packagers and so on and so forth is that we are able to work with them to do national branding, so that we have a nationally branded tea, which then allows the smaller producers to then be able to ride on that without actually doing all of that hard work. Your Excellency, we are doing a route to market strategy for the tea right now as the State Department for Trade. We set aside a little bit of money for that. And I think this is something which we can use the outcomes of this conference, and then as we develop that strategy, make sure that it responds to all the questions that are coming up. And we shall do that in close consultation with the governors and the other tea sector players. And just to say that trade logistics is not just affecting tea. In DRC, I was there about 3 weeks ago, a kilo of meat is going sometimes for over 1,000 shillings. And it's the Lebanese that have actually dominated this market. And it's really just a matter of how easy you're able to get your trade logistics into this market as you bring in other things. So those countries that are able to bring in very, very many things are able to basically get sort of that advantage. Another question was that we are not promoting consumption of tea locally enough. I agree. And also, I think one of the things that I've not heard in this conference, which should really come out as part of the report, is tourism and consumption locally. We have a huge capacity for this. If you go to Mauritius, the biggest museum that is attended by most people is not even anything to do with the beach. It is an old sugar factory called Aventura du Sucre, which was basically converted into a museum that tells the story of Mauritius through a commodity of sugar. It tells you the story how the Dutch came in 300 years ago. It shows you the story of how that happened. Your Excellency, I see no reason why we shouldn't develop tourism products that are actually based on commodities like tea and that kind of a thing. And that can easily be done. And this is something that State Department of Trade will be very willing to work with us to do that. If you look at Limuru, for example, 40 minutes from Nairobi, look at all the conferences that are there. Yet we do not have sufficient tourism packages that can allow people to do some 2 hours there. So, Your Excellency, as one of the outcomes from this report, I'd be happy for the State Department of Trade to be tasked to work with State Department for Tourism and other players so that we come up with a tea tourism package that can help us advance our tea internationally. Your Excellency, as I finish, I think there was the issue of Dogokundu. Yes, Dogokundu is there as a special economic zone with the export processing facilities, but these ones can be done anywhere in the country, and we strongly encourage tea growing areas to also approach the State Department for Investment Promotion, and we'll be very willing to work with you on this when we get specific proposals. If you want us to convene a breakfast whereby we can actually lay out the way we can start having this conversation, this is also something that we are willing to do almost immediately. Yes, I think the ministry, with association with the governors, are laying out the county aggregation and industrial parks right now, and it's really up to the counties to prioritize with our advice and assistance. But if you, for example, prioritize that you want to do a CAIP that is focused on the tea sector, then we are willing to work with you on this. And in addition, the Kenya Export and Promotion and Branding Agency can also work with you so that you can actually, in addition to the nation branding, you can actually now look at the strategy of direct selling and the strategy of actually telling the story of that particular factory, so that then you're able to do your direct sales from there that tells the story of, for example, Kericho. And that is something which the CEO is here. Just stand up so that the governors can see you. So if you want to do a localized strategy, then we can help you, and she's also there. Export warehouses. Recently, many countries have thought that, particularly for smaller players, if you have a small tonnage, it's very difficult to navigate export procedures, very difficult to do your own marketing, own branding, and so on and so forth. So many countries now have been coming up with export warehouses. There's a good side to it and there's a bad side to it. The good side is that if you are able to get an export warehouse, you are able to do aggregation, particularly that helps the smaller players. And basically, if you're able to get a custom bonded facility in a foreign country, then basically the goods are there, and basically they are able to enjoy sort of close access to the consumers. But it needs to be done right, otherwise it fails. You need to ensure that there's a good partnership between the private sector and the owners of the tea and the owners of the brands, and then the assistance from government, such that you do not have an export warehouse whereby you have the public sector now assuming the role of selling and marketing again, which sometimes could go wrong. So this could also be something which, for those writing the report from this conference, is to look at the possibility of export warehouses in relation to the tea sector, focusing on smaller players. Ghana has actually established an export warehouse in Mombasa Road the last 2 months. You can take a look at it. They are selling their chocolates. They are selling palm spirit that they make, and they're also selling kente cloth. We all know that whenever we travel to Ghana and Ivory Coast, we usually come back with our bags full of that kente cloth. The ladies, I think, do that more. But this is something which we can take a look at and see how it can be done. And places like Kinshasa and so forth are places that we can do export warehouses. And this is something which we are willing to explore further. On investment, there are a lot of facilities that are also from the GOK side, but also from the donors side, which once we are actually organized and are ready to invest in things like the packaging sector, invest in specialty markets, these facilities are available. And I'll share with you a few examples. Take a look at the Kenya Development Corporation, which is under the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. We are currently getting into a lot of partnerships with institutions like the World Bank to basically help us deploy capital so that private investors are able to invest. I'll give you an example of the leather sector and the meat sector. The World Bank has put aside $40 million through a project called Drive, which will go to KDC, and KDC will do the onward lending. And that lending is available to any private sector player that basically wants to get into the export market in relation to meat and leather. Now, what then we need to do is that once we have the outcomes from this workshop done, and we've identified the investment areas, packaging, specialty teas, and all that kind of stuff, then we can convert this into bankable products, and then we can go to institutions like the World Bank, USAID, and so forth, and basically get some concessional financing for this. USAID, for those that have your pens, just write Africa ATI, USAID. ATI USAID is under an initiative called Prosper Africa, and they are providing support to private sector so that people who want to export are able to have access to financing. It's not small money. People in the nuts sector and the textile and apparel sector are getting grants, not loans, grants of up to $2 million per company. Just go to their website and you'll see that. Why can't the tea sector, once we've finished this conference, organize ourselves, look at the top 10 issues we want to do, and move into places like ATI, and so on and so forth. And this is something that I'm willing to have this conversation with the people that are prepared. Why are the tea factories not set up as EPZs? I think that one I've answered. I think it's Africa Trade Investment Partnership. So Exotic Nuts has got money from them already. United Aryan, in terms of textile and apparel, has gotten money from them. Hella, in textile and apparel, has gotten money from them, and so on and so forth. But this is something that I think we can have a chat around. Your Excellency, I think in the interest of time, I may have answered at least most of the questions. Yeah, so thank you so much. I think I will yield to the direction from His Excellency if we can take a few more questions, or maybe we can take them in the group. Sorry?
Thank you.
Common user facilities.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Paul Chirchir Tarimbo, MCA for Kapsoit. My question this morning is about the economic blocks for counties. We have the Lake Region Economic Block, where Kericho County, Bomet County are members of those blocks. I have not seen them here, and I am proposing that if it's possible, because Nandi is here, Bomet, Kericho, Elgeyo Marakwet, is it possible that we form a tea economic block to assist the tea farmers in this region? Is it possible? Number two, on East African tea trade in Mombasa. What is the role of your department? Thank you.
Okay. So let's have maybe just two more. I can see there's a question here and a few more on that side. We stand guided by His Excellency. If we also have the group coming up, but if we have a little time for a few more questions.
Maybe PS.
Thank you.
Okay.
PS,
So let's proceed.
PS, because I'm the host,
Yes.
I'll help to moderate so that we save on time.
Okay.
So we'll take we'll take a question from our DG, maybe one from there, and one more, then we close the session from our Mama County, and maybe just him, so that we save on time. And the farmers from behind there.
Thank you, Your Excellency, our PS, and our PS. Our PS, we have discussed a lot about China, Pakistan, how they are taking their tea. What we are not telling our people, why do China take a lot of tea? China, they take their tea not because of as how we take ourselves. They take it like medicinal. And that's why you go to China. You can't see putting sugar on the table. If we can address our people the same, to take tea as medicinal, and they will do away with some of those supplements. That's why China, if you go to any office, what you'll be received with is a cup of tea, not sugar. There is no sugar on the table.
Thank you.
If our people
There's a comment. Just let's make it short so that we are able to
Thank
proceed.
you. If you get those people from coming to China, what they come with back to our country, those people who do business with, they come with the tea. How are we doing to promote our tea when our people, our guests coming to our offices to promote that tea? And how can we promote African to tell them when they are taking tea, they are taking something else, not only tea, to cure their thirsty, but to make it like medicinal? Thank you.
Thank you. Just maybe you, just a second, just 30 seconds.
Thank you. PS, Keproba is domiciled within your department.
Correct.
And some of the issues that are coming out of this conference is about branding. What are you doing about it? And what challenges might you be facing? And what would you like this conference to come up with to help you in the branding of the Kenyan coffee out there? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
the Kenyan tea.
Tea, sorry.
I
grow both coffee and tea.
Let's come to county, then we'll pick from Fred, and then we go to the farmers.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellency, and PS. And I stand here to ask about how we market. When we look around, the kind of tea that we are taking is from the factories. The quality that we have is the normal. I really want to ask if we can get the tea that we are selling outside. That is when we can have quality. The one I know is just from within, from my factory, that is Chimamul. I don't know the others. And then number two, when we talk of Kenya Airways, if we have something that can unite all the tea that we sell outside, so that we have it as a brand. When we find our tea in another country, it still stands the same. Because now tea, wherever you will find it, you know this is the Kenyan tea.
Thank you, Mama County. Here, Engineer Fred, and then we go straight to the farmers. No, waheshimiwa tumetosheka na waheshimiwa sasa. Tunataka tusike kwa
we only usually see promotion internationally of Masai Mara. You bring tourists to Masai Mara, you show them the Simbas and the rest. You see, this is a crop which is very critical when it comes to our exchange or our foreign stabilization. Our dollar currently is at 140 shillings against the shilling. And yet tea is one of the foreign exchange. What are the strategies that you as a ministry are putting in place? For example, I've never seen any international conference on tea. In so many people, and we sell the tea. The other thing is, we as a government, we seem to have abandoned what is very critical to our foreign exchange to cut on our behalf. You see, the government itself should be handling the tea, because that is what gives us the money from outside. So I think when you saw the people who are doing the presentation yesterday, the cartel seems to be within that team, because KTDA itself is like a cartel. So they are only interested with themselves. They are not interested with the country, because our foreign money is actually, or the exchange rate keeps on going up. So I think we need to take tea as a crop that is very critical to our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please kindly, I haven't given you the mic. I'll give you the chance. Our dosi wenyewe, the tea farmers were here, and we'll pick it from the back end there, then one from this row and one from this row, 30 seconds each, and then we wrap up the session. And then
Thank you.
My
name is Professor Joseph Karanja Thiongo, Murang'a Caucus, and chairman of Gere Tea Factory. Mimi naona ya kwamba tumesahaulika kama tea factories. Hii mambo ya kupeleka Europa ni ya the big boys and big girls. Lakini kwa sisi, kwa nini hatusaidiwi ili kampuni iweze kuuza majani chai hapa Tanzania, hapa Uganda, Rwanda, kwa East Africa, hata hiyo DRC, kwa sababu the Kenya shilling ndio USD ya area hii yetu ya pili. Mabanki yetu,
let's just let's just make it one in the interest of time.
Mabanki yetu yako Sudan na Congo na wapi, ma KCB, ma Equity. Kwa nini hamwezi mkatutengenezea a robust strategy ili kusaidiana na wao factories ama conglomeration kwa counties tuweze kufanya hiyo biashara, kwa sababu kama factories tunaweza kupeleka chai yetu huko. Asante.
Thank you, Prof. From the far end.
Thank you, Excellency.
Then we'll come with the lady here for gender. Yeah. After him. Yeah, proceed.
Thank you, Excellency. My name is Anash Ngaragen from Onunga Zone 5. My question, PS, you know, when we're talking about selling and marketing, tea, we are just talking about the consumer, the buyer in Karachi. When I go to Karachi, I don't want to expect to see Monunga teas in sachet. But I see sachet in Karachi, in Urdu, in their names. Are we not able to reach to our buyers there? They can customize what they want. We do it in Kenya like outsourcing, so that we create jobs here and sell finished product to them. If it is caramel tea, if it's masala tea, if it's ginger tea, we package it for them here with their specs, the way my friend from IT said. It is possible.
Thank you. The lady for gender. The lady here. The lady here. There's a lady here. Kindly pass the mic. Yes, herself for gender. And in our presence, I want to recognize the presence of Irungu Kangatha, His Excellency, the governor from Murang'a. He was with us yesterday, but Your Excellency, he has joined us today. Thank you, Kangatha.
Okay, good morning, and thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Mercy Lynette Rutich. I am from Kericho County, and I'm a tea marketer. Now, my concern, Bwana PS, is that we usually have the Kenya Association of Manufacturers awards on energy management awards, which means there has been considerable improvement in terms of carbons in our country. Is it possible through the ministry to integrate these benefits and, you know, get the farmers to finally see actual money in terms of carbon credits? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very key issue. This row, the farmer there, yes. Yes, yes, please, at the far end. And let's be kind to each other because we cannot take all the questions in the interest of time.
Yeah,
Remember yesterday.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Professor Martin Obanda, Tea Matters. The issue that we are talking about, tea marketing, has been with us for a very long time, and we have not succeeded. We suggest that we hold civil servants who are posted in all the countries that Kenya has relationships with. That is not the solution. In my humble view, is that we have not been able to define what is this product we are selling. We say Kenya tea, Kenya tea. What is this Kenya tea? You see?
Prof, I would request that we go just straight to the issue, that this is your take, and this is how we can proceed.
Okay. My take is that, first of all, we sell tea by the invoice. We should be able to identify what the invoice is, and that will be the beginning of how we can sell tea. Otherwise, if we just say sell Kenyan tea, people won't know what you're talking about.
Thank you, Professor, for that we are concerned. We now come kwa Ishimiwa, and we'll do just a round. We begin from him.
Thank you, Governor, Your Excellency. Everybody, good morning. My take is this on marketing of tea. And I know many of members have said they travel a lot. Many state officers travel a lot. Why can't we have a way of ensuring that anybody, any state officer that is traveling, carries a package of Kenyan tea, and the gift and everything that is given, tea packet is part of it. I think that can help a lot, and that can help us giving our Kenyan tea a name out there, because it is true we have failed on marketing, and we have identified that it is marketing that is not happening out there. Kenyan tea is well, it's good, it is the best, but it is not well known in the world. I think that can be a step in the right direction. Thank you
so
very much.
Mheshimiwa. We will have the final one.
I thought you had given me a chance.
Yes?
Professor.
Professor?
Yes.
Just hold a bit. I know this is a very good debate, but in the interest of time, we need to progress. So kindly, Cherorot, pick it up so that...
No,
I will. You already have the mic?
Yes.
But you see, the controller is me, and I haven't given you a
had
chance.
already
But
indicated-
because you have the mic and you have a very unique something on your head, you can just proceed, sir.
Professor, I am the only Mokorino here. You cannot pretend
You're
that you are not
marginalized.
seeing me.
Please, sir, proceed.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And I wish to go to the PS. In a recent trip made by the President in Embu County, I heard a very passionate appeal by Rokurire Tea Factory, who have already set aside some money to put up a value addition plant. And what they were asking for from the President is that they be assisted with some money, actually around slightly over 100 million, so that they can complete their plant. So what that means is that our factories are already ahead in terms of value addition. They really want to do it. What they need from government is a little more support so that they can complete. And in the finance bill that we just passed the other day, there was a reduction on taxes on packing materials. So I think what our factories need is we support them so that the farmers can get more. Lastly, I have heard many speakers here say that we need to market our tea locally and more aggressively. I am in agreement with them. But in the last more than 50 years, the most we have been able to consume is 5% of our tea. It's like telling a farmer in the Rift Valley who harvests around 200 bags and consumes only 5 bags to know how they can consume more. I am thinking there lies a bigger and greater opportunity out there than locally. So the tea sector and the Ministry of the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should work harder in ensuring that we exploit the greater market, because there are those who don't produce tea but are consumers of tea. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's come to Chirorot and then Governor Sang, and then we give the PS a chance to respond.
Thank you so much, our moderator, Your Excellency Governor, Your Excellency Deputy President. This is an opportunity for us as Kenyans to make sure that we promote our tea. And thank you so much, Your Excellency, for considering Kericho to be one of the areas. About marketing of tea, we have to encourage domestic consumption. And the way to do it is to make sure that even in our offices in Kenya, we have to have brochures about tea, so that whenever people get into those offices, they see tea. And those tourists who are coming to Kenya, we have the gift hampers that you are supposed to give them at the airport should be actually tea bags, so that when they are here, they consume our tea.
Thank you, Chirorot.
Lastly, right now we are fighting the illicit brew. What are we going to give in exchange to those who are leaving? Let them take tea in Kenya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Governor Sang, have the last one, Sang, so that we have the PS. Then we can see if we can do another round. We have asked already around 20 questions, and I think we can give the PS to answer. Then we see if time allows, we can do one more. So Governor Sang, please.
Just two things, Governor. One, and this is to the Deputy President. When value addition processing equipment for a very long time was zero rated, and I mentioned this to you in Meru. When these wazungus were doing their factories, they were zero rated. But around 2020, a VAT of 16% was introduced. At a time when the farmers are starting to do value addition, they are starting to do processing, this is the time the government introduces 16% VAT. I think, Your Excellency, it is time that the national government considers this, so that our farmers and our cooperatives, our local investors, as they start to do value addition, let them not be subject to 16% VAT that was not subjected to many other investors who joined the industry long. The second one is that while I agree with you, PS, that the value chain approach in terms of our commercial attaches is important, it's not difficult to just market Kenyan tea. Any ambassador sent to any country, we need to shift from this political diplomacy to economic diplomacy, so that performance contract to our ambassadors should not be based on just somebody going there for 3 years. Every year, they should be able to make returns. What was the value of trade between Kenya and that country when they were appointed? Yearly, what have they done? So that then they can be able to make this. You know, governors, Barchok went to North Korea, or was it Korea, and Pakistan, and succeeded in getting a direct sale. Surely you cannot tell me what Barchok could do that a minister, an ambassador cannot be able to do, yet he is there, living there, he is being facilitated by government day in, day out, and their job is just to market Kenya. So I think we must just put our ambassadors on performance contract, and that should be based on the volume of trade, so that then we can shift from this political diplomacy that may not be useful to us to economic diplomacy and put them on performance contract. That should be able to help us.
Thank you, Governor Sang. So let's have the PS to respond. I know it's been weighty, and we can have you responding, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll respond best I can. Some of them were comments sort of that touched on areas that maybe I'd mentioned before. So for those ones, I'll probably leave them out, but I'll try and address the new issues. And I'll start with the last comment. I fully agree that our ambassadors should be able to be our first sort of line of marketing. Now, what I was saying is that on a specialized basis, we are going to be able to revise that so that we have trade attaches and teams around them that can be also working with the private sector to basically sort of do sort of the hard and detailed work. But what I get from you, Governor, is that in addition, as part of the basic training that a governor must, that an ambassador must have before they, for example, go to Pakistan, we can have as a resolution of this conference that let us map the key three countries, and in those countries, as part of the foreign service training of the ambassador, they should be able to spend at least 2 weeks on a very detailed program of training in understanding tea, how to describe tea, how to know where it's grown, how to describe its organoleptic properties and taste and so forth, but also to understand the dynamics of tea trade, such that then they're able to do that. So for those writing the minutes from this, maybe you could add that, ambassadors to be posted in countries where we are selling tea should undergo, as part of their foreign service training, 2 weeks of a program. And the State Department for Trade with the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency and the Tea Board of Kenya can actually come up with a curriculum for this in association with the private sector. Secondly, to the governor's question, we also have a huge asset we are not using, which I hope we can also use. That is diaspora. We have Kenyans and other Africans that are living in key markets. They understand those markets. They may have even married people in those countries and have lived there for 20 years, and yet we are not using them sufficiently as part of our marketing teams. So we should also include that as part of the teams that we're able to put together. On issue of zero rating equipment, I fully agree with you. I'm not too sure. I think some of our capital goods that are coming in are already supposed to be zero rated, but I don't know if specifically the ones connected to tea factory implements are not included in that. We can take a look and basically establish what the real thing is here, and then make proposals to Treasury. I also agree about local consumption of our tea and see how we can promote that. One thing that we have to have in mind is that most external buyers want voluntary sustainable standards implemented as part of their program. But locally, we will not be requiring that. So, and getting voluntary sustainable standards like rainforest and so on and so forth costs money. So as the local consumption goes up as a percentage, we will also now have to see sort of how the production is done so that you can have a separate channel where you can spend a bit more money on certification and so on and so forth, and the local channel, if you do that as well, you'll probably be wasting your cash. So maybe these are considerations which the farmers can also basically have. On the issue of sort of gifting and sort of making our brand, that is part of the brand development and sort of the marketing side, which Keproba does quite well. I agree that we can actually come up with a package of gifting, but at the same time, we have to develop other products. We have to do tastings of tea at our Kenya High Commissions as part of events. And we need to train our ambassadors to be able to conduct a tasting exercise at the end of conferences and that kind of a thing. Keproba during COVID also started something in the coffee sector. They started e-tastings. So essentially you basically have people on the other side of the world or anywhere else, and you basically have a barista or somebody on this other side who is then able to take them through a tasting exercise, which they don't need to be there physically, and you can talk about the attributes of the tea and so on and so forth. And this is part of what they already do, but it is part of what we can further also explore. As far as the recent trip in Embu for value addition plants, I think if you share with us the details, we'll be willing to see if there could be certain sources of financing as well that we could recommend. I spoke about the Africa Trade and Investment Partnership that USAID is doing. We could see whether we could write a letter to Treasury to try and prioritize that in a supplementary and that kind of a thing. So if you just get in touch with me, I'll be very happy to sort of get further details on that. I think there was also the issue of when people travel, they should have a packet of tea and so forth. So I think this is the general question on how we maximize all available opportunities to basically build our brand abroad. So I will not go into each and every one of them, but to accept that as part of this conference, we should use all of those modalities. Professor Banda, I think he spoke about the civil servants training program. I think I've already covered that. One thing that I would add is this: the State Department of Trade, Keproba, and so on and so forth, we have already been doing this kind of work. I think what only happened in August last year is that we now have a fresh administration that is actually prioritizing our export development in a much more aggressive way. So we are already always engaging with the Treasury for more resources that can help us do this kind of work. I'll be able to do even much more. On carbon credits, I confess, I do know that some work is going on there, but it is not directly being handled by our department, but we know that there are private sector investors that are interested in this area, and if you get in touch with me, I could share more information in relation to this. I think the main issue there is the traceability that I think we need now to have as a resolution of this conference. State Department Environment, MFA, and Trade can actually look into that and have it ready in another 7 days with some specific answers. Tea factories being ignored. I think we have agreed yesterday that the basic element for us to be able to get higher value is to be able to tell the story and the attributes of that specific factory, that specific community, the acidity level, the taste and other factors, and even the historical story about the people who live there. That's part of how you market tea as well, and any other commodity. So that one I fully agree with, and it is something which Keproba, for example, is able to work specifically with a tea factory to understand those factors and to have them on board. They will know, for example, what is the age of the person in the US that takes tea, whether it's a man or a woman, whether they own a home or they don't own a home, whether they take it in the evening or in the morning, or even things like when they buy tea, what else do they buy? Or if they buy tea, what did they not buy? We take our tea hot. Many Americans take their tea cold as iced tea and so on and so forth. So these are things that Keproba knows, and if you approach them, you'll be able to work out a very specific marketing dynamic in a very specific market and what you specifically need to do. On the issue of labeling and packaging, I fully agree with you. We need to make sure that we label and package specifically for the market that we are going into. Let me give you an example of meat, which we are currently working with the World Bank and the State Department for Livestock to improve our exports of meat to the Gulf from 47 $1 million, and we want to try and double that. One of the key things we've realized is that you need to have the packaging in Arabic, you need to indicate that it is halal, and you need to make sure that it is halal certified. And you need to know how many grams the packet must be. In Egypt, for example, they like smaller grams. In other places, they like larger grams, and so on and so forth. So for the tea sector, this still goes into part of what you do in a market, such that once you know what the buyers want, you also have to make sure that you label and package and so on and so forth properly. I think I will leave it there. We still haven't covered everything, but I think in the interest of time,
Yeah.
I'd really beg that we...
Thank you. Just a bit. You can just hold a bit. We all agree that in the interest of time, we need to move this discussion, and the Ministry of Trade, led by Moses Kuria and under the directions of His Excellency, is doing a great job. So maybe just take a seat a bit. We want to listen to successful independent marketers that we have within ourselves here, and they have that touch of experience. With your permission, Your Excellency, permit me just to invite somebody called Collins, who is an independent producer, to share in just 2 minutes his experience, then we move forward. Collins, if you are in the session. Collins Chiruyat. Yeah, just in 2 minutes to share, because it's a lived experience, because he owns and then he markets himself, just to listen to him, and then we proceed. Yeah, and the challenges that could be there, and the possible way of moving it. So Collins, take the mic, Collins.
Thank you, Governor. His Excellency the Deputy President, all protocols observed. I think I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity that I've been given. I was here yesterday discussing about processing of tea. I also want to highlight the fact that in my previous life, I've run Kenya Tea Packers Limited as a CEO, and I've had quite a bit of an experience in terms of what are the challenges that actually we face as we try to export tea. One of the things that I haven't had mentioned from the discussions that we've had is what does it take to get a branded packet, whether it is a Kenyan branded packet, whether it is a national branded packet, or a packet that belongs to a private packer, to be off-taken from a supermarket. It's one thing to actually develop very good packaging. It's one thing to have quite a good quality product. It's not difficult to actually land your product in any of the European, Middle Eastern countries. We have done it in my previous engagement. And the issue actually that arises, and I think that's where we need to focus as a government, is how do we support these value addition entities to actually be able to move the product off the shelf? Brand recognition is one big factor. One of the things that we saw, particularly when we were trying to do expos to Dubai, is you find that there are brands that are already recognized there. How do you then develop a brand recognition in those markets? And that's where I think it costs quite a bit of money and the government needs to come in. Advertising in some of these countries is a very, very critical aspect. In the Arabic and Middle Eastern countries, if your product has not been seen on TV, then it's very unlikely that it will not be picked off the shelf. So I think we need to focus as a country on how do we then facilitate our packers that we're actually encouraging to be able to move that product off the shelf. Some of the contexts that we've looked at, like what happened to the Sri Lankan journey, the way they were able to develop in the early 70s was they had an export compensation. Now, the export compensation scheme would actually be able to give money to the packer so that it is going to be purely, and I agree with what the PS was saying, you can have a countries, And that is definitely something that can help, because you need to be able to land your product there, have it stored in a safe place. But it is us as a private sector who should actually facilitate the movement of the product off the warehouse. So it will be the responsibility of the private sector investors to actually do the marketing. But what I would like to urge the government is to facilitate. One is, if we had, for instance, export promotion compensation, that would then be given to a packer who has actually delivered his product to that destination market. Then he uses that money to be able to market the product. It costs about 3 times for a slot of about 30 seconds to advertise on TV in Dubai what it costs you in Kenya. What we had in one of the local TV stations, prime time before news, if you wanted to advertise your product for 30 seconds before news, it would cost you 3 million Kenya shillings for 30 days. If you wanted to do that in Dubai, it will cost you 9 million shillings. Believe me, none of our packers, even Ketepa, can afford that for a very long time. It can only be through intervention of government. When you talk about putting your product on the shelf, in Kenya, any of the supermarkets, you can actually put your product in the shelf without any expenses. In most of the foreign countries, you actually have to rent shelf space. How many of our small packers can actually afford that? We did it when I was in Ketepa. We used to pay quite a bit of money, but it gets to a point where your finances are fully stretched. So whereas I want to hear, and I want to appreciate the fact that we're talking about developing our brands, we're talking about investing in technology, and personally, and from the independents, I can attest to the fact that the biggest challenge is not investment. One of the things that we know about Kenyans is if they know there is money in a destination or a product, investment has never been an issue. They will invest. As I mentioned yesterday, we have, under the independent tea producers, 30 factories that have invested in excess of 300, 400, 500 million shillings. So investment, I think, is probably not where we should be focusing on in terms of equipment, machinery, even in terms of artwork development. Where I think the government needs to focus on is how do we facilitate this product that has landed in that foreign market to be off-taken from the shelf. The moment that is achieved, the rest, I can guarantee you, will be straightforward. It will be much easier. But I want to support, and I've been a very good, strong advocate of warehouses in the destination markets, because if I'm a small packer and I want to export 5 tons of tea, where do I put it? And among the areas that I would actually suggest that we focus on is West Africa, DRC, Pakistan, and Dubai. Then the next thing we need to look at is how do we get the packer to move that product off the shelves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, maybe from our maturity, let's clap for Collins. Let's have a question from maturity leader, Aaron. Somebody to give the mic to maturity. We'll just get one from Aaron. Kindly somebody with the mic to Aaron. Aaron, somebody get the mic quickly to Aaron because we are really pressed with time and this is the last day of the conference. Aaron, kindly.
Just a question in 10 seconds. Collins, I wanted to find out, are there any of your members that are doing what you're saying and what has been their experience? Does it grow over the years or they've been forced to maybe keep it at a very low level?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, there are some of our members that are already attempting in their own small way to actually value add. I want to also confirm here that we have worked with Kepropa and we have actually developed what is a sample of the national brand, okay, not national, but a brand that can actually be used for marketing under Kericho Tea Factory, and I think the CEO Kepropa can confirm here. We've actually moved through the processes of artwork development, back and forth between ourselves, Kepropa, the Tea Board, and the marketing department of Nairobi, to the point that we have actually developed a fully branded packet that is actually now in the market and is in production. We are looking at that as one way of probably meeting what has been suggested here in terms of what brand do we have available in our foreign, in our ambassadorial offices in foreign countries. So that is one step that we have done. We have also moved to export some of those teas to foreign countries. We've done quite a bit of exports to Saudi Arabia, and we've also done a bit of exports to Japan. But there is a limitation in terms of the fact that you get to a point where your finances are stretched beyond what is actually coming, because the offtake from the shelves is actually much, much slower. If there was that kind of facilitation, I think we would actually be able to stretch ourselves and be able to move the product progressively and grow. The reality of the matter is, if you put a product on a shelf in a supermarket in most of these countries, where you're talking about rental, shelf rental, the other aspect also that comes in is they also look at how much or how fast is your product moving. If your product is not moving, then within a certain period of time, they'll actually ask you to take back the product. And those are the kind of expenses that we need to be looking at. The Sri Lankan model, which I mentioned about, is it was actually the export compensation program that they used. I know when you talk about export compensation in this country, sometimes it creates a negative connotation, particularly when you reflect against the previous years of Golden Back. But I think it's a proved and prudent way in which you can actually support development of nascent products in foreign countries to be able to be achieved. When we exported to Nigeria one time, it was actually very difficult to convince the Nigerians that this product that you're drinking that is coming from the UK is actually from Kenya. So again, with concerted effort and financial support, I think we'll be able to break through that bridge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Let's clap for Collins. I think he has done a very good job with his experience. Your Excellency, with your permission, I know we have working groups that as the session progresses, delegates will be in those groups. We may not take every question because of time, but I encourage that in our working groups, we be able to discuss these issues so that we later on present them in a plenary as a way forward so that we save on time. With your permission again, Your Excellency, permit me to recognize the arrival and the presence of David Chichir, our CS for Energy. Some few questions were raised yesterday in regard to power with the factories and KDDA, and I know you will have time in the progress of the day to be able to respond to that, and thank you for gracing this occasion. With your permission, Your Excellency, permit me to invite our CS, Florence Tamyole, to be able to, Tamyole is a name that we gave her here at home, but a real name that you know up there, Your Excellency, is Florence Bor, but here at home we call her Tamyole, which is a very good name that represents a very beautiful lady. So permit me to ask Florence to say something. Please give a mic to Florence. Yeah, Florence, just come over here. Yeah. Can we clap for the PS kindly? He has done a good job, and tell Moses is also doing a good job with your ministry, and we are partnering strongly as county governments with your department and ministry. Thank you so much. You're welcome, CS Florence. You can take over the mic.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, participants in this conference, good morning. I'm delighted, I'm happy that this conference has been held here in Kericho, and two, that we are able to have this conference. I'm born and bred in this county, been educated from the tea money. I'm a tea farmer. I have plucked. I have taken to the factory. It has been weighed and paid. The last time we smiled when going to the bank to pick the tea bonus was 20 years ago. Since then, we don't get paid for that tea. A tea plant can be plucked for 50 years. That tells you the kind of poverty that we have in the tea regions. However much we talk about the tea, the biggest animal is the marketing of tea. Private owners of tea factories, the marketers, saw the gap and ran away with it. The small-scale farmers were left on their own. So when PS was here, and all of us, let's look for ways of how to market, how to get the best price for tea. If it is us taking tea on the tables instead of water, let it be. This is a dynamic world. We need to find new ways of marketing this tea. And KTDA have not helped. So if we have this conference, kindly, let's make a difference in the Kenyan farmers and get the best price for tea. Collins is here. I saw you work at Ketepa. You left your job at Ketepa because you saw the gap. You're doing very well as an independent producer. Kindly give us that advice, give us that help, also for the farmer, the small-scale farmer, to benefit from what you are also benefiting from. So going forward, I look forward for the resolutions that will come out of this conference so that we get the best price for the tea. Talks have been given. I had Chairman Labour Karemba say in the finance bill there was a reduction in the packaging material, which is true. We need to add value to the tea. We need to package here and sell, because even in the market, we may not be having the best tea, but just because it is written Kenyan tea and packaged, what is packaged in those packets are dust. It is not the real Kenyan tea. So we also have the rogue packagers who package the wrong tea and sell. So Your Excellency, I know we have great ideas from these people who are here, these participants that are here, and we look forward for the best price for tea. Once and for all, we sort out the mess that is in the tea industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's clap for CS, our CS Florence. Thank you so much, CS, for your comments. With your permission, Your Excellency, and having indulged with you, it is your feeling that CS deficit here, and I think at this point we are all delegates. The delegates here, deficit here, CS, can come and respond to the questions that were raised by the factories yesterday on matters electricity and where we can move forward. So, Karibu CS deficit here, who is now a tea delegate here. Karibu sana, CS.
Your Excellency, Deputy President, and my colleagues in the tea industry, good morning. Your Excellency, I just came in this morning from Dubai. I should have been here yesterday because this is not only my great home county, because Bomet and Kericho used to be one county, but more importantly, I'm a tea producer, and I run the energy sector, and energy is a big challenge in the tea production, not just in manufacturing, but of tea, but in the cost of doing business in our country. And so we continue working to ensure that we need to bring down the cost of energy. Your Excellency, in the energy sector, or rather in the tea production, we really manage cost of production, and I'm sure our colleagues in the House will know that we do cost allocation for every kilo of tea. how much goes to labor, how much goes to electricity, how much goes to wood fuel, how much goes to insurance. So we do cost allocation, and in that cost allocation, Your Excellency and members in the industry, I think the cost today is about 60 to 70 shillings to produce 1 kilogram of made tea, CTC, which is basically the fermented. I know the cost of production in the specialty tea is much higher. So for that cost of 60 to 70 shillings to make 1 kilogram of made tea, forget about the cost of green leaf. The cost of power is between 15 to 20 shillings, which is 30%. 30% of a kilogram of tea that we send to market, 30% is the cost of energy. So we need to work to reduce the cost of energy, like I said, not just in tea, but to make our entire economy more competitive. And so we'll continue to work together to ensure that we bring this cost of down. I know this is why KTDA, in its divestiture programs, and I know that has been discussed at length, running the various units of KTDA, you have KTDA power production. And one area of concern I know is we have licenses that are not performing today. You've taken debt on farmers' equity to generate power. And I've been sitting there and just making some references. I do know that today, Imenti Tea Factory is producing power and putting to the grid. Gura Tea, KTDA Tea Factory is producing power, Your Excellency, and putting to the grid. Kigira Hydro, which is also a KTDA, is producing and putting to the grid at certain signed power purchase agreement of 6.9 for, or 7.4 for Imenti, 9.8 for Gura, and 12.3 cents US for Kigira. The question that arose, Your Excellency, is why do Kenya Power buy at this cost, very low pricing, and yet when we buy from the grid, we are buying at an average of 20 cents US. It defeats the whole thing, and we need to understand the frameworks. But today, Your Excellency, under the Energy Act 2018 and the regulations that we'll be publishing soon, which will allow us to do net metering, we will be able to allow KTDA more of the energy as captive power. You use your own captive power, and what is excess, you feed to the grid, and you'll be able to take the power from the grid when you need excess power or when you need more power. And then so we'll be publishing those regulations in a short while, maybe in the next 40 days. Equally, we are publishing regulations on wheeling. Wheeling is where you can produce power in Imenti and push it to one of the factories in Kericho through the transmission network. That basically means you can produce, you can pay for transport, Kericho, at about 1 cent US. Those regulations are coming out also in the next 45 days. So you can transport your power to market, wherever there is market, and sell it to your relationship market, which could be easily KTDA, and be able to bring down the cost of doing business in the tea industry and address the challenge that we all face. I'm a player in this sector, and 20%, 30% production cost of 1 kilogram of tea is very high. Your Excellency, all these costs accrue and they are subtracted, and by the time we are paying the farmer, we've done our arithmetic. We don't lose as producers. We basically do our arithmetic, ile kidogo inabaki tunapea farmer. How do we ensure that we have enough for the farmer? By reducing on the cost of electricity, reducing on the cost of wood fuel. I know wood fuel may have been talked about, but let me add, because I'm a tea producer, Your Excellency. To be licensed as a tea producer for 600 acres of a catchment, 600 acres of tea catchment, you need about 200 acres of is it 1 to 30%? You need 200 acres of plantation of eucalyptus. With the degazettement of the forest, would like to find a way of really getting into the resolutions of this meeting that when we sell government commercial forest, we don't sell to middlemen who then sell to the tea producers and as an individual. If we give some of this government tea forest, commercial tea forest, to tea factories, that will find a way, that benefit will find a way in the cost allocation to benefit the farmer. So, colleagues, let's argue our case to make sure that as we degazette some of these commercial forests which are mature and which need to be commercialized economically, we really need to seek first priority, particularly for the eucalyptus forest, and so that when we build the cost of production in firewood, which currently runs at about 8, 9, maybe 12 shillings per kilogram of made tea, we can bring it down to 5 shillings per kilogram of made tea and take the benefit down to the farmer. That will go a long way in helping us really address the challenge of making sure that more of the benefit, the cost saving, goes to the farmer. So, but let me also say as follows, that I do know that KTDA, who really a majority of members sitting in this house, have built other power generation plants. Outside here is Kipsonoi, KTDA, Setet. We have Chemosit. We do have, on the other side, Nyambunde, Nyakwana. We do have Nyamindi, and I've checked in my dispatch plan, Your Excellency, and I think it will help to have KTD appreciate that in the dispatch profile, Nyamindi and Nyambunde have been allocated a dispatch for 2023. We do know that there was a moratorium which really was seeking to bring down the cost of power. Working within that framework, we will be, when we go back to cabinet with the dispatch profiles of additional power, and hydro, Your Excellency, is a very good base load. It is good base load because when we do solar, solar only produces power about 23% of the time because we have solar for 8 hours in a day, and even in those 8 hours like now, there is no solar because there isn't adequate solar energy. And for that 23%, unlike hydro, where if for a good season when hydrology is good, we are able to produce 24-hour energy from hydro. So we'll be expediting some of those KTDA hydros. They are not big plants, so Nyamindi and Nyambunde will be coming onto the grid 2023 as soon as we take this to cabinet for approval. And KTDA, South Mara, Meru, and Iraru will be coming to the grid in 2024. I do know from the equity placement of the farmers against the debt that you have taken to the banks, or from the banks rather, it is challenging for KTDA today under that moratorium not to be dispatching this power which has been fully generated and which you cannot sell to the grid, yet it is holding farmers' money in equity. So we'll work closely. I don't know why KTDA management have not been to my office, Your Excellency, to talk to these issues. Everybody who is generating power is in my office every day. So I want to encourage KTDA to work closely with energy. Come to my office. Let's work together and see whether we can dispatch Kipsonoche, Mosit, and the others that I've mentioned in 2023 and 2024, so that we can reduce the cost of energy in the production. As regarding payments for those who are producing, I do know there's been a challenge on payment. And part of my coming this morning from Abu Dhabi and to Dubai was to address the challenge of petroleum, which consumes, supply of petroleum into this country consumes 30% of the US dollars. And with the tightening of the monetary policy by the Fed post-COVID, where we all know that inflation rate in countries like US, Canada, and those countries where inflation rate previously stood at between 0.5% to 1%, rose to up to 9%. And in correcting those inflationary challenges, the Fed has raised the yield on the US dollar, and we do know that the dollar has been migrating to the owners and causing untold challenges in availability of the forex for our market. Petroleum alone consumes 30% of the forex, and it caused so much pressure on the shilling, and we saw a depreciation of about 3% on the shilling every month, which is really a big challenge. Of course, Your Excellency, for this tea industry, depreciation on the dollar has been something because we earn in US dollar. And so when we get our US dollar and we convert the shilling, we get so much shillings. And it is interesting that in the last 6 months, maybe even 1 year, our profit in this tea sector has been on the yield, as opposed to earning money from making tea. We've been earning money from the depreciation of the shilling. But that as it may, the challenge of payment to KTDA generation, what do you call power generation, has been more of Kenya Power not able to access the dollars. In fact, I do know that in the last 1 month, Kenya Power has been trying to access $130 million so as to pay KenGen as a generator, so as to pay KTDA as generator. But we've told them to go slow in accessing those dollars, because what happened in that accelerated procurement of dollars from the market was the depreciation of the shilling, the speculative tendencies that accrue out of that. But I want to assure KTDA generations that as soon as we are able to access the dollar, and that should be in a short while, because the interbank has been reestablished with this G2G petroleum supply, we will be able to get the dollars and be able to offset those debts for generation of power by KTDA factories. Your Excellency, we are working very closely to see why do we have to be running a dollar economy within Kenya. Kenya Power, unfortunately, collects Kenya shillings for the power that they sell as an off-taker on behalf of the generators. But we have to buy dollars and pay ourselves in Kenya on the dollar. I remember under the Africa Trade, when the president talked to Djibouti conference, asking, why do we have to trade within Africa using the US dollar? And so you bring it home. Why are we trading amongst ourselves within Kenya on US dollar? If KTDA, Your Excellency, were able to take the shilling at the prevailing exchange rate, I bet we could be able to pay KTDA tomorrow on the shilling for an exchange rate of about 138, 140. We could be able to pay KTDA immediately. We could be able to pay KenGen immediately. But unfortunately, some of the development funds, the equity and debt was denominated on the dollar. And unless that money was required for servicing the O&M requirements of the company, it becomes a challenge for them to pick the shilling, because they need the dollar to be able to service the dollar loan. So we will work together. I want to assure KTDA that we are out of the woods with this dollar challenge, partly addressed by the G2G, but more importantly, the fact that we need to talk more about how do we service our debt on our currency denomination. Having said that, Your Excellency, let me assure this great tea forum in Kericho that as one of your own in the energy sector, as a producer, we will work together to ensure that we bring down the cost of production so that everybody in the value chain, from the farmer, the producer, the brokers, and the buyers, can really make their reasonable margins, and we all have a win-win situation. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much. Shall we clap for CS Davis? You will agree with me, Your Excellency, that David has given us a very precise situation that we are in, and we are completely in support of trading in the Kenyan shilling, because, I mean, it doesn't make sense that we trade in dollars while in Kenya.
Having said that, Your Excellency, because you were late in beginning this event, I would want to persuade Rose that if we can take one more presentation or two, then you go for tea break under your guidance, of course, because I finished my session. But I know you are intelligent enough to guide us from here, so you are welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency Governor, Your Excellency, sir. Indeed, there is a presentation. The presentation by PS Trade from the State Department of Trade was a two-part. Your Excellency, sir, we did get the input from the cabinet. We are most delighted to hear from our CS Energy and Petroleum, Davis Churchill, for that input, which is a very pivotal point in production, sir. And of course, appreciate the remarks from our CS Labor, Madam Florence Bore. Sir, Your Excellency, sir, with that, I wish to invite Mr. Peter Kimanga, who will be wrapping up our conference in terms of presentations at least. He's the Director of Gold Crown Beverages. Your Excellency, sir, this is towards the question of value addition. Picture this. It has been said we have the state-of-the-art product. None of the other players in the industry even come close. But at the end of the day, we really are not getting the best from what we have as a crop. Now, therefore, there are people who are trying to do something about it. Let's hear it from Peter Kimanga on what that is. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Chief Guest, Deputy President, all protocols observed. My name's Peter Kimanga. I'm a director with Gold Crown Beverages, Kenya Limited. We are best known for packing a brand called Kericho Gold. Bwana DP, I want to thank you. Because last week I saw you giving a packet of Kericho Gold to one of the visitors, showing him the best teas we have. I really want to thank you for that. I also want to thank the legislators from this region, because most of the best tea bills in Parliament have been taken by members from this region. Honorable Kones, Honorable Cheriot, and Sigei. But I still wanted to be noted that from yesterday I kept on begging for a cup of tea, and I couldn't get. I even carry my own tea bags in case I don't get it. I asked for hot water, but it was still not available. And we are talking about declining tea demand. Thank you for the assurance that nothing will happen to us if we become brutally honest yesterday, because for packed tea. But one of my biggest obstacles is policies, particularly within government. Bwana Deputy President, if you want to pack tea for export, as a packer, the first thing you have to pay is 16% VAT upfront, which you can claim upon exporting that tea. Claims of refunds of VAT have been taking years. An average container of 20 feet costs about 5 million. 16% of that is 80,000, which you have to lock for several months before it comes back. It is working capital which we have borrowed. So we cannot be able to pack for long because of this value-added tax. Paper in this country is expensive, very expensive. We are importing paper from Pakistan. We are importing paper from Sri Lanka, paying import duty of 35%, and it is still cheaper than buying it from Nairobi. So if we think of sending tea to Pakistan packed here, it is not practical because their paper is much cheaper. If we can pay 35% import duty and still be cheaper than paper in Nairobi, there's no chance we can pack it here and take it out there. In the new finance bill, there's now an excise duty of 25% above the 35% on that if you import packaging paper. So it adds up to over 70% the cost of paper alone. It is not easy to pack. I want to go to my presentation, if you can quickly go through the slides. I want to demonstrate that is the global tea production. Kenya, we produce 8%. 92% of the global tea is produced outside. Close to 7 billion kilos, we produce about 500 million kilos. So there's a lot of tea produced outside. We only produce globally, we produce 8%. Let's go to the second slide. Those are our markets. We had it yesterday. It is very risky, it is very dangerous that 55% of our tea is going to 2 countries, which at the moment are having dollar issues, they're having political issues. And that is part of the reason why we have declining prices. It was frightening that this week in Mombasa auction, 70% of the tea which was offered was not sold. We only managed to sell 30%. That tea has gone back to the warehouses. It will be offered for the auction again. Those are destinations of Sri Lanka teas. Look at the strong markets they operate from. They have Poland, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Netherlands. These are the markets that take value-added teas. The future of Kenya's tea is value addition. We have a very good product, but we are unable to get it out because of policies. I do not understand why. We have to subject 95% tea which we can value add. Hold it because of 5% that is consumed in the local market. We collect less than 4 billion as VAT in government, but that 4 billion has stifled the growth of 95%, which we can value add. Let us zero rate it. In UK, tea does not attract VAT. Tanzania, locally grown tea does not attract VAT. Here, it attracts VAT. It's only 5%. It's the farmer who grows that tea, buys the machines, but still pays the tax for buying that tea. If we zero rate it, when a deputy president, we will see value addition factories sprouting. We will call it, yes, the government has to raise taxes, but we can get taxes in another form. Pay as you earn from a vibrant value-added sector. We can get a lot of corporate taxes from those vibrant value sectors if we create jobs within those sectors. More importantly, it will help us expand our markets. There are markets that don't want bulk teas. The new buyers today are supermarkets. They don't want bulk teas, but we cannot access those markets. Our Kenyan tea is being packed in Egypt, is being packed in Dubai for re-export because we can't do it here. That's the local consumption, below 40 million kilos. Kenyan drinks less than 2 grams per day per person. If we drank 2 grams, we will be about 42 million kilos. And much of this tea, a lot of it, if you go to our airports, you see a lot of people moving out with packed teas. We consume less than 30 million kilos. If you go to a country like Turkey, they consume 3.5 kilos per year. Kenyan, we consume 400 grams. That's the reason. You see what is on our table. I got 3 bottles of water, which I never asked for. But the tea I kept on begging, I never got. Up to now, I couldn't get hot water. And we are talking about value adding or sorting out the demand issues. What you make, tea is habit forming. If you teach somebody to take tea, they'll keep on asking for it. If you come to my office, and some of you have, we never give tea. We never give water. You ask for water when you are leaving. But we keep on giving you different types of tea, green, white, orthodox, until you say yes to one. But we never give water. Water is kept outside, tea is kept inside. Here is the reverse. In Kericho, I couldn't get a cup of tea. Consumer changing habits. Today we are talking of premiumization. Improve the quality of your tea. I'm happy there's a lady who talked about bonus 20 years ago. In 2009, when there was global drought, tea prices shot through the roof. And the IGG group of FAO warned producers not to react to the good prices because they were temporary, and instead focus on premiumizing their teas and expanding markets. Only India told the farmers, please don't react. We went on to overdrive. Factories sprouted up like this, which in 2014 when prices collapsed, we had the 2016 Tea Task Force report, which has still not been released. But we never reacted to that. What we are seeing now is the result of the accelerated growth of tea production against expanding markets and against improving our quality. Globally, people are improving their beverages. We have to produce good tea, otherwise there's no safety net. If you produce poor tea, there's no safety net. Branding. Branding, again, Tea Board of Kenya. I have had an opportunity to go with them outside this country. They always register 1 week before the meeting or 2 weeks before the meeting. When we go out there, you find the big countries like Sri Lanka have the best eye-level places. We always get a space at the corner. They get permission to travel very, very late. Same as Tea Research Foundation. They are poorly funded. Sometimes we have been funding as EATTA, some of them like Dr. Kamunya, to come for our meetings. Because the farthest he can drive is Kericho to Nairobi. If we want him in Mombasa, we have to pay for him. They are poorly funded. In fact, Tea Research Foundation is like a branch within Sri Lanka Tea Research Institute. It is so small. Sometimes we have problems. We have had our samples confiscated in China because we are told, can you explain these samples? We need to go with these people when we are going out. They can explain, they can be asked scientific questions we can explain, but they are poorly funded. They need to be funded and in good time so that we can be able to go with them to answer those scientific questions. Bwana Deputy President, this is a new way of packaging. The young group want fashionable teas. Teas that we call them functional teas. Teas blended with something else. They are blended with lemon. They are blended with chamomile. They are blended with hibiscus, different varieties of teas. This is a new way of branding. But the way we are branding our products, Can you go to the second slide? Our Deputy President, this is tea from the most expensive factory. With due respect to Honorable Mathenge, this is Gaduthi tea. I saw Bwana Kirundi here. That is Kiru on the right. This is how we are packaging our tea. This packet will never stand a chance in a European supermarket. Yet, it is the most expensive tea in Kenya, Gaduthi Tea Factory. That's how we are packaging. That is my brand which I'm selling in Sudan. Kericho Gold. That rating of Kericho Gold, it is done in Arabic because I want to access that market. We are selling that brand in Sudan. We have to package, we have to make brands that can compete competitively in price and paper out there. These are some of our brands. The top brand, Bwana Deputy President, we are partnering with Kenya Wildlife Trust. For every sale we make of that tea, we are donating some little money to Kenya Wildlife Trust for creating a fence where there is human-wildlife conflict. Of course, the others are different varieties. You have green tea with mint, green tea with all lemon, green tea with orange. So anybody can get a packet of tea he can drink. This is a gift pack we sell in the duty-free shops, which has 8 different flavors. It's one of the hot sellers. This is also another rank-share brand. But Deputy President, because I saw you gave out a packet of my brand, I gave you a special token for you. Ndio uendelee hivyo hivyo. So that you can be able to help us market our tea. We are very excited when we see people giving out tea because it markets our tea. When the President of the US came here, Barack Obama, I was told before he gives a speech, he must take a cup of tea. I desperately tried to get to State House to donate some tea, but I couldn't get through. Now we got the challenges. Like I said, packers have to pay VAT upfront. If you just zero-rate this tax, allow packers to buy teas from the factories. Packers cannot buy tea from the zero-rated auction. They can only buy from buyers or buy from the factories. But they must pay 16% upfront. The finance bill has said it will be zero-rated, but with permission of the Commissioner General of KRA. How many times will we be writing to KRA to get an approval and buying tea every day? And when will those approvals come back? I have 2 containers stuck in Mombasa going to Uganda. But because of Kenya Bureau of Standards, they have given me a letter, I've sent to Uganda, they have refused that letter, they have said until you get that permit, timely decisions are important. Important packaging paper at 5% import duty, 25% excise duty, 3% IDF, 2% railway levy. Local paper manufacturers are not having some quality certificates. I'm selling to Europe. I'm packing tea for 4 supermarkets in UK, but they want a certificate called BRC. No factory in Nairobi has that BRC certificate. For that, I have to import that paper and pay 35% import duty and a punitive tax of 25% excise duty. Excise duty. Then all these other taxes. It is cheaper now to send my tea to Egypt, to have it packed there and send it across to UK, because I don't stand a chance. If the packet is packed in Kenya and packed in Egypt, the Egyptian packet is always cheaper in UK. Can you go back to the slide? Back to the slide. Inter-county taxes. I'm happy the governors are here. Please help us, because I used to see Chaboti from Yauti zones, Kaisugu tea coming to Mombasa. Everywhere the vehicle passes, as it comes to Mombasa, it has to pay advertising tax. It has to pay advertising tax. And it is not even selling. It is just bringing it to Mombasa. So they are just transiting that county. They have to pay. If it is spotted by the council askaris, they have to pay a tax. We have now started removing the branding on the vehicles, denying our young boys jobs. They used to brand those lorries. They are now releasing them back to the original color, because every county is charging a tax. Kaisugu tea will only be sold in Kaisugu. Chaboti will only be sold in that region. Help us by removing these increasing taxes, because we want to grow as packers. If I bring in my truck of Kericho gold from Mombasa, every county it goes through, we have to pay a branding fee. So we cannot grow because of these taxes. There's a book called The Secrets of Winning a War. Conquer your area first before you start going out. It is very hard to take our tea outside if we are not able to conquer this market first. Then we have a harmonized standard code, HS code. We are importing some products from Germany, like lemon granules, which we are blending with our green tea to export. If you bring that lemon granules, which we don't get in the local market, if you import the lemon granules, they are considered a finished product by KRA. They are coming for blending. To us, it's a raw material, but it's coming for blending. We have to pay 35% import duty on them. And it is coming for value addition. So those granules, whatever we import as a finished product, whether it is in bulk or not, we have to pay 35% of duty. We are asking the government, when we are bringing in bulk materials for value addition, let those be exempted from duty. Because they are coming to create jobs, they are coming for more processing. It is green tea, yes, it can be lemon granules, yes, but it's not a finished product until we blend it with our teas to export. Let us have 2 standardization codes. If you go to other countries, you find tea in packets attracts a higher duty. Tea without packets or bulk is less duty. In Kenya, it is the same. Whether it is packed or not, it is the same. Tea from Egypt comes to Mombasa duty-free, because it's a country. And they are able to get paper from Dubai without duty. You can pack Kenya tea in Egypt and bring it down here, and it will be cheaper than Kenya tea packed here, because they are able to get paper from Dubai. They are in the Arab League economic bloc, so they don't get duty. So it is easier to pack those products out there. Verification of compatibility. These are, like I discussed, flavors. The flavors we are importing, we are being subjected to pay taxes on them. The machinery, we talked about machinery. Okay, if you are bringing machinery for packing tea, we are paying 16% VAT on them. They are coming to create jobs. These machines are very expensive. Upwards of 50, 60 million. We have to lock 16% VAT, which you can't claim back. Machines that come to create jobs, let us exempt them from value-added tax, because it makes the money more expensive. When you are taking your cargo to port, these are the taxes we pay. We're talking about few jobs in Kenya, no jobs in Kenya. We have a shortage of KRA staff in Mombasa. We load tea 24/7. The KRA staff don't work at night. If you load your container at 6 o'clock, you have to wait until morning. And sometimes you have more shipments coming. We are having container shutouts because we cannot ship goods in time. It's not 24-hour thing. We need to have more officers working at the port. We need to make our port 24/7 because tea is being shipped out 24/7. The Tea Act, somebody talked about EPZ. The Tea Act contradicts EPZ. The Tea Act 2020 talks about any import of anything coming to the EPZ, we have to apply for pre-verification of conformity. The EPZ Act on the other side says all imports into the EPZ should not be regulated. So sometimes we import things at the port for our EPZ, but they are stuck at the port because we can't clear them. We never got permission from T-Board. EPZ is considered an offshore company. It should not be subjected to local tariffs, but some of them are now. If we have to import some teas, different teas from places like Sri Lanka, there are some special teas we have to import to blend with ours. If we try to bring those teas, we have to seek permission from T-Board. But in the EPZ, it says there should be no restriction in importing these products. Let us harmonize these acts. It is very important because if you listen to EPZ Act and do what they say, then T-Board Act will contradict that. Thank you. Let me say, the potential for value addition is very high, but we need a conversation, number one, with the packaging manufacturers in Nairobi. There are papers we can't get. Let us be allowed to get those papers. Filter paper comes only from Philippines. We don't process filter paper here. But if you bring it, the duty is 35%. Other places it's zero rated. If you bring, okay, then there is of course the 16% VAT. And these things are coming to create jobs. If we want to value add, we need to have a discussion with the paper manufacturers to bring the cost of paper slightly lower. We also need some guidance, particularly when we are going out. Let us have the ambassadors telling us where the trade fairs are, because we want to participate. Let us, Tea Research Foundation, let us fund them, because we are having our teas destroyed when they get to China. Because when they get there, they realize there's something which was there, which was never picked up here. Let us have Tea Research Foundation properly funded. Thank you very much. I wish to present this gift at your free time, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. If you address us those problems, value addition will triple in this country. Thank you.
Your Excellency, sir, the presentation by the Director, Gold Crown Beverages, Mr. Peter Kimanga, brings us to the close of the sessions on presentations and the panels for this conference, marking the second day. Your Excellency, sir, I am certain, and a majority of people here do agree, indeed, that was one way to complete our sessions on the questions we have been saying and the statements we have shared. What to do, what not to do. There, the presentation on value addition and some of the improvements that we seek. Your Excellency, sir, at this juncture, I wish to hand over this program to you as you give us direction and as we look forward to the breakout sessions. Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Once more, I wish to express my very deep appreciation of the commitment of all the delegates to this very useful conference to sort out matters in the coffee subsector. I trust in the tea. I have been on coffee and tea until I use the two words interchangeably. I trust you had a good night and you had a good reflection. Ourselves, we were here for a TV interview to try to tell the people what we had discussed yesterday. And therefore, many tea farmers are aware of the deliberations that went on here yesterday. The interviewers were asking for the interventions, and I told them to wait. Those interventions will be arrived at today. So we want to break into the small groups so that when we come back, we can now work on, we can now agree on the recommendations of this conference. And thereafter, when we get back to Nairobi, we'll get a small team to actualize them. What requires legal reforms will be done. What requires administrative action will be done, and what needs policy will take it to cabinet. I think the Minister for Energy, you are most welcome, has been very clear. And I think what he has given is one of the gains of this conference, that within 40 days there will be regulations to allow those who are generating power to use it and sell the rest. Again, that is a very good gain for this conference. And the way the CS for Energy has asked KTDA, please don't just sit and complain. Go to these government offices and push your agenda. Now, there is a saying in my community that if you find a tortoise on top of a table, it has not placed itself there. Somebody has done some work to put it on top of the table. So if you are not getting your way in the energy sector and you just sit in the factory and then you keep on complaining, things will not move. Our CSs have clear instructions to the president to open the doors to everybody. So please call on the CS for Energy and find out where is the snag. What do we need to do to unlock so that we make progress? You know, and the way the CS Florence has also said, those of you who used to be with us, the small holder growers, and you have found greener pastures elsewhere, come and give us the experience, share with us, and we are willing. So I think even the small group that will ask the independent producers to enhance our thinking. How do we do things differently? Because KTDA is operating like government. You know, in government, there's a lot of inefficiency and bureaucracy and very wasteful spending. Is what the president is trying to fight in government, but it's not easy. You know, in government, Waziri, you know, everybody just thinks about per diem. You know, we have a big fight in my office when I'm trying to change that thing. You know, when people hear that I'm going to Kericho, you find a list of 90 people to accompany me. You know, and some are just seated in the office. And these things have been happening. People are in Nairobi and they are being paid for travel. You know, and I took interest myself as deputy president to ask who am I traveling with. And therefore quite a number of people are not very happy with me. And as I said last night, some of us, we have a woman who loves us. We don't need to be loved by anybody, lady. We just need to do, we just need to do what needs to be done so that the people of Kenya can be happy with us. If the general population can show us love, that is enough. So we have, KTDA will have to have a conversation. Because these people who have become independent producers, who are working with you, and they have brought down the cost of production, and they are making profit. And again, we'll have to discuss, if what the CS has said will be done, we'll have to discuss that the saving on the cost of power must go directly to the farmer. Because from what I've been told last night, anytime you make profit, you make sure you develop a new project to absorb the new profit instead of taking it to the farmer. Yeah? And commissions and all that. So what we are KTDA tutakuwa na mazungumzo. And frank discussion. It cannot be that way. It will not happen. Once we agree with CS Energy and we see what we are saving, we must agree that that benefit must go to the farmer. And you cannot use it to pay the farmer what you have been paying and you start a new project. Again, all those projects that you start now, our constitution says anything that affects the stakeholders, there must be public participation. You cannot just sit in Nairobi and start a subsidiary without talking to the farmers. You cannot just sit in Nairobi and start a new project that is costing billions without talking to the owners of that money. That is the way these things will be done. I know you'll not be very happy with us. Again, we don't need you to love us, we have somebody to love us. So, tutafanya hiyo mpaka tukubaliane, because it cannot be. It cannot be. We were looking at statistics last night. You know, people, Wakenya wamechanuka sana. On my phone, because I've never changed my phone, wamenitumia details on the travel of directors of KTDA. Somebody has traveled 36 times in 2 years out of the country. Yeah? On farmers' money. You know, on farmers' money. You know? So, madirectors wa KTDA tutakuwa na mazungumzo, na mimi nataka tuongee vizuri na urafiki. Hatutaki tukaze, hakuna haja. We'll have to agree. We'll have to agree. We'll have to agree that we must sort out KTDA, na tutakuwa na mazungumzo tukubaliane. Arising what we have been told by farmers. Waja ile lizungumzo hapa. Ile imekuja sasa kwa simu, iko maneno. Na raia ni wazuri. They were following this in live. Wanasema ile maneno yenyewe haijasemwa. Sasa maneno niyo hii. And I've done some bit of cross-checking. Tutapatia watu yetu ya National Intelligence Service, watuchekie kama ni fitina. Then once we establish si fitina, tutaita nyinyi tumwambie maneno ndio hii. You make a decision, tubadilishe, tuwetebe pamoja. None of us has any witch hunt. We don't wish anybody bad. We don't wish to have anybody in problems. What we want is we agree. We open a new chapter, tuweke mkulima mbele. If the farmer is the main person, we'll agree on what to do. Lakini mukisema ni nyinyi muko mbele, hapana. Hapo tutakuwa na matatizo. Because I can tell you, the government has decided the farmer must get money. It doesn't matter ile method tutatumia. There must be a way how this money must get to the farmer. Na mutakubali tu wale mlikuwa mnakula hapo katikati, mpunguze ile mlikuwa mnakula, mkule kidogo, and there's nothing wrong. Because that is the way it will be. Ama mkose anything. Si ndio? Yeah. Najua huyu Senator Cheriot alikuwa anasema wakati ya campaign ya kwamba lazima kila mtu akuje kwa meza ya kukula, na akikatazwa atremushe meza, kila mtu akuje chini, kila mtu akose. So we don't want to go to that route. Now as a government we have the mechanism kutoa wewe peke yako, wengine waendelee. So let us get the direction on the small groups. I don't know, Rose, you can guide us what time we reconvene. Dio hizo groups ifanye kazi, na mimi naomba tu tafadhali, the same way you have shown commitment, show equal commitment to those groups, because that is where the real thing is, the recommendations. After all this traveling from wherever you came from to stay kwa hii baridi ya Kericho, if we don't come up with the real recommendations, this conference will not have been meaningful. So let us, hata mawaziri mkae kwa hizo group where you think you can add value. Sasa watu ya Gadhudhi, mbona mnaniangusha na mimi ni mtu ya nyumbani. Sasa hiyo branding yenu iko chini sana. Iko chini. Yeah? My friend from Kericho Gold, you go and bring me enough tea. Every day I receive ambassadors, all kinds of people from all over the world, because there is a function the president gave me to coordinate partners, the donors. I'm the one who coordinates them. They come to me where they have issues. So I have ambassadors every day. I have investors every day. So wewe uniletee nikumaketie, tutakubaliana commission ile utanipatia. Hakuna shida, I'll market for you kwa sababu mimi pia ni mfanyabiashara. Na hiyo I'll earn something honestly. So wewe kuja tukae, uletee majani ya kutosha, uweke hapo. Sasa kazi yangu ni kupeana. Hata hiyo unasema hujaona rais, panga hiyo majani nitakupeleka, upatie hiyo majani na yeye akuwa akipeana. Anybody who brands well will market for you, provided it is Kenyan. Lakini hiyo ya Gathudhi hiyo, that one we cannot. Hiyo hata kama nyinyi watu ya nyumbani, sasa mutatuweka chini. So, I think we have had a good conference. Rose, can you come and guide us on exactly what you want us to do?
Thank you, Your Excellency. Perhaps as you have guided Mr. Peter Kemanga, and since he had the gift in hand now with Mr. Mwiti, if you could just come close and hand it over to you, Your Excellency, please. Karibu, Mr. Kemanga.
Na niambiwa pia watu ya Kericho ulipe kitu kwa kutumia jina yao. Hiyo ndio ujumbe nimepata.
There we have, of course, you see, he has actualized what he's talking about. Look at the branding, the packaging and everything. There we have it. I hope Gathudhi factory is following closely. Look at the packaging as well. Those are specialty teas. You can see how nicely they are packaged. Premium presentation and premium production. Thank you, Your Excellency, sir. Thank you, sir. May we all be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we now seek direction for the groups that have been highlighted so far. We will also be having support teams in our specific groups. I request the protocol team to come to the podium so that we're able to see who is going to be assisting us on our groups, kindly. And even as they're making their way here, we have misplaced items. One is by a delegate, Brian Nguiri. Kindly collect your card. And we also have Dan Kanyegon, who has misplaced his identification card ID. Your Excellency, sir, I wish also to recognize the presence of Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei. Karibu Mheshimiwa, thank you for your presence, sir. Here is the protocol team. The reason they are at our stage or on our stage is so that we identify the people who will be guiding us. Our first group is the production level. This is thematic area 1. We will be meeting behind the tent. Remember, we said for the rest of the delegation, we're going to pick the areas that are of interest to us. So production, right behind the tent, is where we're going to be meeting. The protocol officers are Mr. Wilfred Katana and Ms. Jacqueline Zhao. They'll be assisting us. We'll also have the secretary to help us with the printing. Next, we have the processing level. This is going to be held right inside here in the hall on the right side. We're going to have Mr. Geoffrey Kamau and Ms.